Remember when Sony released games like this? Or this game? And there's no way we could forget about this game, right?
The way he leaps off of rooftops and flips backwards to face the camera before falling into a headfirst dive is just full of the exaggerated swagger of a black teen.
PlayStation was, and arguably still is, the king of console exclusives and non-handheld consoles, dropping some of the best games I and many others have ever played. With series like God of War, Last of Us, Spider-Man, and more going on to be so successful that they spawned franchises and sequels that are still selling plenty of copies to this day. But man, when did we ask for a sequel to Concord? I've been a Sony pony since the day I came out the womb, owning every generation of PlayStation that's ever come out, and experiencing some of the greatest hits PlayStation and other studios had to offer us. But even I have to admit it, with Sony's recent personal best and announcing, then canceling live service games,
that is an unbeatable world record! Oh my fucking god!
PlayStation could absolutely be f***ed if they don't play this right. But where did things start not entirely going smoothly for PlayStation? Well, it began with Sony making the mistake of thinking that they could just copy what everybody else was doing and expect the same jaw-dropping results that popular live service games receive, while slowly ditching what made them great in the first place. Now, I'm not saying PlayStation shouldn't pursue live services or that they've stopped releasing great single-player games. In fact, Sony has already gotten a taste of the sweet, sweet nectar known as live service revenue through some of their first-party games, with live services like MLB The Show, Destiny 2, and Helldivers 2 contributing to over 40% of PlayStation's first-party revenue in Q1 of 2025 alone, which funnily enough also means that 60% of PlayStation's first-party revenue came from first-party exclusives, despite there being almost a year in between exclusive releases.
You serious?
They've also still been releasing quality single-player games like Death Stranding 2, Astrobot, and Spider-Man 2. The catch is that we've been seeing less and less truly exclusive PlayStation games come out this generation due to this live service push. Sony went from releasing 180 exclusives on PlayStation 3 to 60 on PlayStation 4 to around a soul-crushing 13 on the PlayStation 5. With half of those 13 being released on PC a year or two later. Combine that with the fact that no one besides your friendly neighborhood scalper could even sniff a PlayStation 5 at market price for the first 2 years of its release. This generation feels like it barely made it past the character creation screen, but Sony's out here talking like they've unlocked the Platinum Trophy. The reasons to own a PS5 past using it to play an exclusive on release before it gets shipped off to PC and to play GTA 6 are quickly fading away. And with the way Sony has been hyping up the PlayStation 6, we might just get it before GTA 6. Sony and a bunch of other game publishers do deserve a little bit of slack due to the impact that COVID had on the games industry. Plenty of games had trouble pivoting from it, and we're still seeing the effects of that to this day. However, I can only bail you out so much when you have one of the main guys behind Sony's disastrous live service push, ex-PlayStation CEO Herman Hulst, saying that the fiasco has led Sony to put in place much more rigorous and more frequent testing, and the advantage of every failure is that people now understand how necessary oversight is. That's like saying the real goal of the hundreds of millions of dollars we burned in a pit of fire were the lessons we learned and the friends we made along the way. Sony could have just given me a couple million and we would have figured out that games produce results without wasting years of development time. What grinds my gears the most about this is that there were Sony IPs that had live service games in the works that had legit potential to be great that Sony just ended up kicking to the curb, like the multiplayer Spider-Man game that seems like it could have been spectacular to play with friends if done correctly, or the Last of Us live service game that Sony could have easily given to another studio rather than burning out Naughty Dog, who are already juggling multiple huge projects, which causes me to drown in a deep and indescribable sadness since Last of Us Factions was already proven to be good and had a fan base that just wanted more content like that. Sony this generation has had more canceled live service games and The Last of Us remasters than actual new games and IPs releasing. Speaking of canceled live services, let's talk about the biggest disaster of them all.
At its core, Concord is a 5v5 first-person shooter, but we set out to make it play like nothing else out there.
It's this amalgamation of all of the worst parts of every hero shooter that's come before it, but set to 0.5 times speed. It's just not very fun.
Concord was a game that failed so badly that people will soon study it in classrooms around the globe as an example of everything not to do when releasing a product, let alone a video game. But when you're chasing eye-watering profits that games like Fortnite and Roblox make without even trying, with these games making hundreds of millions of dollars monthly and achieving player counts that would have AAA executives literally salivating in boardroom meetings, you're bound to make quote-unquote risky bets like Concord and other live service games that may not pan out, to put it lightly. The only problem is that we're not only at what seems to be the beginning of Sony's live service push, but it doesn't seem like Sony is learning their lesson at all from these mistakes. Which is why even though in early 2022, Sony foolishly pledged to release 12 live service games by March of 2026, they ended up canceling 8 of them. And Helldivers is the only successful first-party live service game they've released so far this generation, selling more than 18 million copies to this day, which is a monumental feat not many games get to claim. But with the gaping multi-$100 million hole left by all of their canceled live services, Sony has been throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. And honestly, most of it ain't sticking, with their live service future looking like a steaming pile of Concords, where most of these live service games seem to be repeating the same mistakes Concord made when it launched. Whether it be placing a price tag on a live service game in a market where Fortnite, Roblox, and other amazing free-to-plays exist, poor art design where your characters look like Temu versions of fan favorite characters in other hero shooters, or delivering gameplay so generic it makes Call of Duty look innovative. With live service games like Marathon, Sony thought they had a guaranteed hit, as if Bungie hasn't fallen off harder than Anthem's player base after launch, only to be ignored by the gaming community until a controversy pops up so everyone can dunk on the game. I genuinely don't know what they expected after Bungie went full Mr. Krabs mode with Destiny 2's microtransactions and obliterated most goodwill with their player base. Fair Game $sign looks like Sony's next any % completion speedrun attempt at killing a live service game. Concord took a good 2 weeks to get shut down, but this one might not even make it past the beta and set a new world record. And I love the Horizon franchise as much as the next Sony pony, but even as a fan, I'm worried about how their live service game will stack up against giants like Monster Hunter Wilds in that space, despite all of the terrible performance issues Wilds is currently dealing with. How successful does it need to be to satisfy Sony's well-documented biblical levels of greed? I say all of that to emphasize that even though Sony is seemingly trying their hardest to fumble the bag, they're still somehow in a great spot to succeed. PlayStation is now both the single-player exclusive king and the live service console of choice, where the majority of console players choose PlayStation for the most popular live service games. And the numbers don't lie. PlayStation has 16% of all Call of Duty players, while Xbox only gets 8%, and PlayStation grabs nearly half of all Fortnite console players. So PlayStation clearly has the audience for live service games, and console players seem to prefer the platform for these experiences. They've also still got incredible studios like Insomniac, Santa Monica, Naughty Dog, and many more, cranking out banger PlayStation exclusives that'll hit shelves soon, I hope, like Ghost of Yotei, Intergalactic, Wolverine, and plenty more we haven't heard about. Sony has the IPs, talent, and the money to actually make a quality live service game. But with upper management treating hundreds of millions like Monopoly money just to learn basic game development lessons, it has me feeling like Sony's running out of time before PlayStation fans just start building PCs and never looking back. I guess the silver lining is that Sony's at least swinging for the fences. Xbox's biggest moves this generation were essentially becoming a third-party publisher by ditching console exclusivity and raising their console prices twice in a single generation. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Alright, that's it from me. Stay safe. Moment out. Peace.